Welcome to episode number 4 of the RetroWolf Podcast. In today's episode, I've got a really special guest that I've been very excited to have on the podcast, and that is Stav, aka Chronik Spartan Gaming. He is an indie game developer and also a fellow YouTuber that goes through the daily grind with YouTube just like I do. Stav, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Matt. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. Just trying to recover from my 10-hour flea market journey yesterday. That was pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, went game hunting for the first time yesterday and woke up at 4:45 in the morning. Oh, yeah. It was fun. It was fun. Found some good stuff, but, man, I was exhausted. It was hot, too.
I must admit, I've never done a retro hunting session quite like that. I usually just end up popping out for an hour or so, but that sounds like good fun, mate.
It is. It's fun, man, but it is exhausting. And sometimes, sometimes it doesn't always pay off because sometimes you don't find shit. But sometimes you strike gold, so, it's...
beauty of the hunt, though, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's the thrill of the hunt. So what all have you been up to lately, man?
Lately, spending a lot of time indoors,
yeah,
obviously.
Right.
But lately, I've actually managed to get a lot more time to put some development into my game,
nice.
Which has been really good fun.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I've started trying to try a few different things with the channel. Experiment a little bit. I heard from one creator once that the best time to experiment with your channel is when you're still smaller, because when you've established yourself, it's a bit harder. So mostly that, really, trying to put out as much content as possible and get through as much development as possible, really, and squeezing some time to play video games as well.
Oh yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's I'm pretty much doing the same thing as you, minus the development part, which one day I hope to start getting into that, which we'll talk about that more a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've been working from home with my job. They made us work from home. It was about 3 months ago. They started making us work from home, and we're going to be working from home until bare minimum September 7th is the minimum date that we might go back to the actual building. So
that's good, though.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good, especially considering the place that I work is in a big city, downtown in a big city. So try to avoid the big cities. But
yeah, it's good that you can get that confidence because my job's quite similar. We're pretty much comfortable working from home for now.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about trying to avoid big crowds and that. So quite fortunate, I suppose.
Exactly. But yeah, other than that, I've been doing the same thing, man. Just, pounding away at the YouTube channel, trying to keep the videos out, trying to improve the quality of the content. But at the same time, I'm working on getting into filmmaking too. So I've been kind of getting into that a lot. Hey, I see a little kid in the background.
Yeah. I just saw him pop out.
That's cool. So yeah, man, glad to have you on. So why don't we begin with this, man? So for the people in my audience that aren't familiar with you and familiar with Chronik Spartan Gaming, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what it is that you do with indie game development and the YouTube channel? And plug away, man. Plug away.
No problem. I'm Stav, and I really got into indie game development back in 2017. I got a new laptop for my wife. I had a PC at the time, but it completely died. I hadn't really touched it for a couple of years. I was really only playing PS4 at the time. And I got her a laptop, and I was messing about with it, and I decided to install Android Studio and start having a little mess about with it. And I thought I'd give it a go and just see if I could knock up a mobile game. So I found some tutorials based on Flappy Bird. And I created like a little mobile game in about a month. But the thing was that when I was doing that, I noticed I hadn't touched my PlayStation for the whole month. And I'd spent so much time every night and every opportunity at lunchtimes at work working on the game, and it never once felt like a chore to me. It felt like I was playing a video game. So, like when you're playing like a role-playing game or something, and as you progress and you level up, I got that kind of satisfaction from it, like as I was getting different parts of the game to work. And I just realized after that month how much fun I'd had and how much I'd enjoyed it, and I'd actually ended up releasing it on Android, which I didn't expect that I was going to. That it was something I could do, and it was something I was really quite passionate about. So the next step I took was I thought I wanted to make a game for Steam for the PC. And I started doing a little bit of research. I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to literally every single game development podcast I could find, and YouTube videos, and basically saturated myself in information, and set out to develop a platforming game. Glow, which you've played, you're currently playing.
Oh yeah, I am.
And I set myself a target for that because I'd spent a month developing the first game, which was called Cute Cat Splat. I set a target for 3 months. I thought if I can develop a platform in 3 months, maybe this is something I could start to take more seriously. And I did it. I developed it in 3 months. But in that 3 months, a lot of things happened which I didn't expect. I thought I'd just put a game out on Steam, and whoever might see it. But during that time, I was starting to use Twitter a lot more and build up a bit of a small following on there. Yep. And I ended up finding information about a local gaming expo as well. And I just threw my details out there and asked them if there was any spots I could use. And they offered me a free spot to showcase my game. So I went down for the weekend, showcased my game. And that was kind of a life-changing moment for me, really. Being in amongst people, seeing them playing my game, having that kind of interaction and being seen as an actual indie developer by other people. Whereas before that, I'd just been sat at home in front of my laptop and I felt like I was just pretending to be an indie developer. It was just such a life-changing moment. And a few weeks later, I released Glow, and that was it. I was straight away onto my next game. It's like I've made Glow. Now I'm going to make my next game. And I had this crazy idea, right, that I created a mobile game in a month. I created a platformer with like 100 levels and 4 bosses in 3 months. So I can make a fully fledged tycoon game in 6 months. And 2.5 years later, I'm still here trying to finish it. But yeah, that's kind of my indie development story. But YouTube kind of like fits in probably halfway into the story there. And I was always like dipping in and out of YouTube. I was always watching little bits of content here and there from creators. And I'd never really understood YouTube as a place where creators lived, if you know what I mean. I knew people created episodes, but I kind of consumed one episode at a time from different people. And it was only when I started looking into Game Boy games to buy for my son, because I'd actually heard somebody once say the best way to introduce your child to video games is to get a Game Boy Color and a copy of Pokemon Blue or Red and give it to them and let them just slowly be introduced rather than diving headfirst at Fortnite or whatever. So I started looking at some like Game Boy games that I could get for my son, because I'd always loved retro games, but I'd never really collected them that much, and I had a few in the house, but nothing significant. And then I started watching YouTube channels to get some recommendations. I came across Metal Jesus, obviously. I came across CJR, and it was really seeing CJR's game room. I'm not sure if you've seen his channel.
No, I haven't.
You should check it out. You'll love it. He's a Canadian retro game collector. Some call him the King of the North.
That's CJR.
Yeah. SEEJJAYARE.
Oh, SEEJAY.
Yeah. JAY. And he's basically he's converted his entire basement, and he's got quite a nice size house. So the whole of the basement is dedicated to his retro gaming, and
nice.
He started collecting. He found his NES in his loft, and then it brought back all the memories. And then started going to yard sales and that, trying to see what he could find. And bit by bit over the years, he built up this huge collection that covers the entirety of his basement. And his game room is one of my favorite ones. But it was seeing those videos and seeing his game collection where the switch kind of flicked in my head. That went from this mindset of, I always saw video games as something that were really expensive to attain, and to get a collection like that, you'd have to spend thousands, if not more than that.
Yeah.
But then it was watching his episodes and realizing how he picked up games and flipped them, ones that he duplicates and all that. that I really started to think, actually, maybe it's not as expensive a hobby
Mhm.
to get into. So I went down to my local retro game store and then like walked out with about 50 PS2 games.
Nice.
that
Heck yeah.
that was the start of my my retro game collecting, really.
Mhm.
And having watched CJR grow his collection, that's what I decided to start doing with YouTube. I thought I'd start doing some pickups videos on YouTube, and it kind of started to grow from there, really.
Mhm.
Yeah, so anyway, I started doing YouTube pickups videos, and at that time as well, I was watching a lot of Games of War channel as well. And the thing that really captivated me about his channel was just his passion for the games he was talking about. I wasn't necessarily interested in all the games. Some of them were like, a lot of them were RPGs, which would just take too much time for me to actually delve into. But listening to him and his stories and his memories and, you know, what those games meant to him really captivated me. And that's kind of when I first set out doing my channel, what I wanted to do. I wanted to not just like, you know, reel off games I was picking up, but talk about the games and the memories that they had for me and experiences I had. And it was going well at first. I think I'd recorded probably about 10 episodes or something. And I was uploading them like once a week, not really knowing what I'm doing on YouTube, to be honest. All my time had been spent saturated, like, you know, absorbing game development information. That YouTube was something I just ended up just throwing out a few episodes. And I kind of stopped. I think it was early 2018 I'd started, and I kind of stopped about a couple of months after because I felt it was just taking time away from game development. And at the time, it wasn't something I saw as legitimately serious for me to like pursue. Whereas game development was something I wanted to like, you know, possibly turn into a career.
Yeah.
So I just deleted the videos, to be honest. And they weren't performing like massively great or anything. And then it was probably about 6 months. I think it was coming up to like the end of 2018, early 2019, that I'd seen a couple of episodes that had been recommended to me just about YouTube and how to get your videos seen. And you know what YouTube recommendations are like sometimes. You don't know why they're showing you something, but they obviously have like found out you've got an interest that you hadn't realized. So I clicked on them and I started reading about like the how to, you know, do your thumbnails and how to write your descriptions and tags and all that. And I realized I wasn't doing any of that when I first put those videos out. So I thought, well, I'll re-upload them, and this time I'll put detailed descriptions in. I'll do the tags. I'll try and pay a bit more attention to what I'm doing, and just see if it had any impact. One, to see if, you know, out of curiosity, if it would have impact, but two, also to have a little bit of a test, because I was getting to the point where I wanted to start using YouTube maybe to advertise my indie games, you know, like trailers and that. And, you know, that the hardest part in indie game development is getting an audience.
I bet.
You know, it's a true struggle that, you know, it's harder than it is on YouTube from my experience anyway. So anyway, I did that, and a funny little channel called Gaming Off the Grid popped up in my comments, and, you know, they were like really like, you know, quite complimentary of my episodes at the time. And like, you know, they were the first commenters that seemed to actually want to spark a conversation rather than just, you know, a passing comment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll check these guys' channel out, and I saw these like, you know, Wes and Robert, and they were only about 300 subscribers at the time. But I saw two guys that were passionate about something that decided to take it seriously, and you could tell like Gaming Off the Grid's channel from episode 1, they decided to take it seriously.
Oh yeah.
And I was kind of hooked, you know. I started watching all their episodes and that, and I remember the like 5 Wii game recommendation. I actually, those games were so great, I just went out and bought all 5 of them.
Nice.
And it was really watching their channel and seeing a channel that wasn't like, you know, at the time 1,000 subscribers or 10,000, or like CJR, when I was watching him, he was 100,000 subscribers. Wow. Somebody that seemed a lot more relatable. And I thought, you know, maybe I should try that. You know, I do have a passion for retro gaming, you know, and I obviously do want to put videos out there. Maybe I should just try and take a bit more seriously and have a vision for what I'm doing rather than just, you know, just putting out videos and not really thinking about it. So that's when I decided to change my focus a little bit on YouTube and take it a bit more seriously at the beginning of 2019. And in the back of my mind, when I started doing that as well, I realized when I was growing my following on Twitter, which, you know, all things considered wasn't too shabby. For like within a year or so, I'd gained 1,000 followers.
Oh, nice.
But it was all fellow game developers. And as great as it is, like, you know, to connect with those other developers and to see their work develop and to get ideas, we all accept and we'd all openly say no other developer was really there to buy another developer's game.
Right.
If you know what I mean? Because we're all so busy trying to develop.
Right.
And I realized I had a great audience, you know, well, I wouldn't even call it an audience. I had a great community to chat with, but I didn't have an audience, and that was the difference.
Yeah.
And I saw with YouTube, maybe this was something I could start to approach a little bit differently. I'd considered doing a game development channel for a while, but I worried putting all that time and effort into a game development channel long term wouldn't have any benefit to any indie game development that I was doing. It would again just result in, like, you know, fellow game developers.
Right.
And so I thought, well, with the YouTube channel, I'd put more of a focus to the gamer side of me. You know, for like 30, 33, 34 years, I was a gamer. And like, it was only the last couple of years I'd really got into game development. And there was a lot of, like, you know, memory, nostalgia, and history and stories that I had that I wanted to share. And a lot of things I was excited about the future of video games as well. You know, we're already seeing like another generational change.
Yep.
And things I just wanted to talk about with people, but didn't really get the opportunity anymore. You know, friends move on, they've got families, work colleagues don't necessarily share the same interests. You know, my wife, as much as she enjoys video games, I'll just bore the socks off her if I talk, you know, as much about video games as I do on YouTube.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, she loves them, but I mean, when I get started, I can talk, as you can probably see right now. And so, yeah, I wanted to do a channel that was the gamer side of me, not just the developer side of me. And hopefully in that connect with people and, you know, have a community that might then also be interested in some of the games that I do make as kind of like a secondary side of that. And yeah, since the beginning of 2019, it's I think it's been every week I've done an episode, and it's become an equal passion with me now. Game development and YouTube. And it's like two sides of the same coin. I see it's that creative outlet, and it's all focused around video games.
Yeah, and I can see that passion in your videos, man. And it's funny, a couple of funny things. So you said you started taking it seriously around the beginning of 2019, and that's when I started my YouTube channel. So it sounds like we kind of got started at around the same time.
Yeah.
As far as taking it seriously. But it's funny that you talk about gaming off the grid, because I think, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure I discovered your channel from gaming off the grid. Maybe they talked about you in a video or something, and I'm like, who is this Chronik Spartan guy? And then I saw your channel. I was like, hey, this guy makes some good videos, and you know, now I watch every one of your videos, although I will admit I'm pretty behind right now. But
oh, mate, tell me about it,
dude. I'm so behind.
That's the real struggle of YouTube, trying to keep up with videos.
It is. My watch list, I think, is up to around 90 videos now, spread across various other fellow YouTube channels. So yeah, that is a struggle. But yeah, I enjoy your videos, man, because I feel like you pick.
Thank you.
I like the topics that you talk about. I feel like a lot of times you pick topics that a lot of people don't talk about, and the perspective that you provide on those topics is a perspective of somebody that's clearly very knowledgeable about the industry. Because I can tell you really analyze the topic before you create your video. Because the points that you make in your video are always really, really well made and really well stated.
Thank you.
I'm curious, on your videos, are they scripted, or do you just kind of go off the cuff?
So I started the first true video, I would say, that started this whole like journey of what Chronik Spartan, the YouTube channel, is now, was I think when the PlayStation 5 was first announced, I did a video about the PlayStation 5, but we knew it was really going to come.
Yeah.
And that one was scripted, that one, because all my pickups videos, they were unscripted and mostly unedited, really. You know, you could see a lot of the breaks in those. I kind of just put them out as they were and put like gameplay over it. But I realized if I was taking this seriously, I wanted to have a more engaging way about me. Yeah. And, you know, when I started this, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a lot of people feel imposter syndrome, especially when they start something new. I felt it with indie game development. And like I said, it was really only when I went to an expo that really started to change. And I thought, actually, I am an indie game developer. And when I started the YouTube episodes, as much as I love video games, there'd been quite a dip in my ability to actually spend time playing video games. And I was just coming out the back end of that.
Yeah. And
so there was a part of me that worried that I would come across as, you know, some guy that's just trying to jump on the internet and, you know, cash in on the video game craze.
Right.
So I decided scripting was the best way to go. Yeah. And I scripted, I think, all my episodes probably up until about 6 months in. I can't remember which the first episode was that I hadn't scripted. But I was actually watching some of Beat 'em Up's episodes, some of his old stuff. Because I really enjoy Beat 'em Up's original content, you know, when he was doing a lot of game finds, and then when he was just kind of chatting, you know, about any topic that came to his mind. And you can tell when somebody's scripted an episode and when somebody hasn't scripted an episode.
Oh yeah, easily.
And the thing that I found captivated me with his early episodes was the fact that they were unscripted. You got a real sense of, like, you know, the person of Wood, you know, and the person he was, especially at the time. And I felt, you know, I'm on YouTube and I want people to see me. I don't want, you know, I've got the name Chronik Spartan, you know, but I want them to see me. You know, I don't want to have some kind of, you know, like hidden persona or anything like that. Yeah. And to do that, I can't really continue scripting videos. As much as it was working for me, I just didn't feel I could continue to do that. And so my first episode, I decided to just go unscripted. I genuinely thought this is probably going to be like an hour and a half recording. It's probably going to take me like twice as long to edit. You know, I'm probably, half of what I said is probably just going to be absolute rubbish. But I did it. And my episode recording time for that specific video, on average before that, I was recording about 40 minutes for like a 10-minute episode. Yeah. And that was 20 minutes that I'd recorded. And it came out a 10-minute episode, if not like even more to the 12-minute mark. And I found it a lot more enjoyable. The recording process wasn't that enjoyable before that. But when I went unscripted, it was enjoyable. I felt like I was just chatting with people. Do you know what I mean? And then when it came to editing as well, the thing is, when I was reading my scripted content, I was afraid to go off script. So I'd be like, it's like seeing behind the scenes here now. I don't know if I should say this, but when you watch an episode, you know, I'd just be constantly looking at the camera, you know, but in reality, what was happening was between, like, sometimes even between sentences, you know, I'd look at the screen and I'd try to maintain my generic position and then carry on from that. And I'd cut in. And so when it came to the editing process, when I edit an episode, the first thing I'd do is I'd just drop the video file in. And I don't even look at the video. I just look at the audio in it.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, anywhere there's a gap, I just cut out all the gaps, especially the big ones. So then you know all that downtime's gone. And when I was doing scripted videos, it was quite difficult because sometimes it was like every other sentence and I was like trying to cut and mishmash it all together. Then when I did an unscripted episode, it was like big long blocks of chatting and then like maybe a pause while I was trying to, like, you know, think what I wanted to say next. And it just made everything a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. I enjoyed talking about the topics a lot more, whereas previously I enjoyed writing the script. But
Yeah.
then the actual recording part of it wasn't as enjoyable. And I don't know if it was me looking to see if anyone noticed the difference, but I definitely noticed comments felt a bit different, and it felt like people were responding more to me rather than the topic.
Yeah.
And I did have a couple of responses that were like, "Oh, I really like the format of this episode," even though the format itself wasn't really that different.
Right.
You know, it was just the way I'd recorded it, but it obviously came across differently. So from that point on, and I think it was probably about 6 months ago now, I just decided I'm going to go unscripted. It just saves a lot of time. I don't have to write a script. I don't have to take 40 minutes to read the script. And
it's very time consuming.
Yeah. I mean, I will write a script for certain episodes. For example, I've got a spoiler alert. I've got a Metal Gear Solid retrospective that I've created.
Nice.
And that episode, I've been hugely inspired by NES Complex. And you know, I think he does some of the best retrospective episodes on YouTube. And Metal Gear Solid is my all-time favorite video game, and I've wanted to do an episode about it for the longest time, but I didn't want to just do any old episode. I wanted it to be different. I wanted to do it justice, and I wanted to almost like pass on my experience that I had the first time I played it.
Yeah.
So for that, it had to be a script. You know, I could sit and talk to you about Metal Gear Solid, you know, for hours right now.
Yeah.
But it would just be me chatting to you about Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
To pass the experience and to pass the emotions, it's a different kind of episode that I'm going for entirely. So for something like that, I'll have to script it. Another episode I'm considering, I'm actually halfway through writing a script for, is video games as art.
Oh, you know, yeah. Dude, that's a great topic. Great topic.
Well, yeah, and I think it's one that needs not just me chatting about it, because, you know, it would probably take me an hour to just chat about it and get the concept over that I visualize in terms of video games as art. And for the impact I want that episode to have, I think it has to be something that, you know, is no more than 10, 15 minutes. So then people aren't like, this guy's just rambling on. Yeah. So that's being scripted as well. Yeah. But that's like 2 episodes in 6 months now.
That's very impressive, man, because a lot of your episodes, when I watch them, I'm like, I feel like those are scripted, because it's just, I don't know, it's just like your points are so good and it just, everything flows so smoothly that it feels like a scripted video, but I'm not 100% sure when I'm watching it. So
thank you. That's a good thing.
No, it's good. It's really good, man. And it's very impressive that they're not scripted. And I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. For me, some of my videos are scripted and some aren't. So, for example, one of the videos you just watched of where I talked about the Outer Worlds on the Switch and how it runs and how it plays, that one was completely unscripted. Because a video like that, I feel like I just want to go off the cuff and kind of just get my thoughts out. But videos like my GameCube Gallery series or any kind of like real review, those are scripted, because for me personally, I found throughout doing YouTube, in the beginning, I never scripted a video. Probably the first, 6-8 months doing YouTube, I never scripted a video. And I found that I rambled too much sometimes, you know what I mean? And not only would I ramble too much about a certain thing, but I would jump all over the place. So my thoughts were not organized in a way that made sense and flowed well. I would go from this topic to this topic, and it was just kind of chaotic. And then another issue that I had was I would finish recording the video and I'd start editing it, and I would realize there were like 3 or 4 points that I wanted to make that were in the back of my mind that I never made. I forgot to talk about. So after that, I decided there's certain videos that I'm going to script, but I don't stick to the script religiously. I will deviate from it sometimes. Sometimes I'll add to a certain section of the script, or I'll, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's more like an outline instead of a, you know what I mean? So I just follow it loosely. And if I feel like I need to deviate from it while I'm recording, I will. But you know, it's different for everybody. Everybody does it a little bit different. That's something I find fascinating, you know?
It's when you say about like having a few ideas in the back of your head that you didn't pass through. When I was doing a couple of episodes that I hadn't scripted, I'd done exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when I first started, the three reasons that I decided to go scripting on top of what I'd already mentioned was the first one was to try and not forget anything.
Yeah.
I wanted to like be able to cover everything in that episode that I'd planned to. The second one, I didn't want to repeat anything that I'd already said, because when I'd done the pickups episodes, I'd just done a video. But when I started deciding to start the channel properly, as to when I saw it starting properly, that's when I'd started trying to do a bit of research. And at that point, I was aware of things like viewer retention, and drop-off times, but also something I'd started paying a massive amount of attention to was SEO, because on my website, I'd for about a year just wrote blog posts about game development, and I'd built up a few. I think I'd built up like 100 users a month kind of audience on the website.
It's not bad.
Yeah, well, it wasn't too bad actually. I thought that's going all right, and I came across an SEO free SEO course on YouTube. And up until that point, I'd always seen SEO as like, some black art that, you can't, it's only really the gurus that know what they're doing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was so simple when they'd actually gone through it. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort, but it was so simple. And it was literally, rather than just like, write whatever comes out your head, it's like, know what your topic is, and then go onto Google and find what the main keywords are based on that topic. Then use those keywords. So like, if I was to say to you, I'm telling you a story, like, I jumped on my bike, I went out for a ride, we were there for a few hours, I came back, I had a shower, and that was it. I mentioned bike once and ride once. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But in terms of Google, if, somebody else had wrote something, which was, I went on a bike ride, I was on my bike for 20 minutes. When I came off my bike, I went for a shower because the bike ride really tired me out. I'd said bike 4 times there, and Google will see, that as more relevant to the previous thing. As simple as that, really.
Yeah.
And I tried to encapsulate that in the videos as well, because I was aware that YouTube notices the transcript. It can hear what you're saying, and therefore that comes into your SEO. So that was originally another part of why I'd scripted, because I wanted to make sure I was referring to the topic by actual its keywords at the same time as well. But going on to where you said like sometimes you can't tell if my episodes are scripted or not. Still, I think that's probably because for 6 months I did it like religiously.
Yeah.
I think that kind of programmed me in a certain way on how I deliver an episode, which might be why now, to you it might seem that way still.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, if I was starting again, I'd probably do it the same way. I wasn't sure if I would, but after hearing you say that, I probably would, because I do believe that's what exercised me, if you know what I mean. Like, gave me the practice to actually do an unscripted episode.
Right.
More confidently.
Right. Well, cool, man. So I want to talk about the game development aspect a little bit more, and I've got some questions for you and things like that. But before we get into that, what all games have you been playing lately, man?
I've been trying my hardest to finish Death Stranding. When I first got it, I put in like, I don't know, 20 hours. I was fortunate enough to go away on a business trip, and I had Vanguard, the Telesplash Gaming's favorite piece of kit. I took a Vanguard with me, and I managed to get a good amount of gaming in there. I came home, and then with family life and kids, I struggled to find time. And I think I'm so close to the end of it now, but I was sure I was going to finish it during lockdown, but work's just so much more busy now, and like with trying to put more content out, I've struggled to really get some. It's not a game I want to just like superficially complete.
Right.
Hideo Kojima is like my favorite all-time game developer, and I don't really want to go into it because I've not completed it yet. But I've heard bits of information about comments about it of people that have disliked it, and personally, right now, for me, without exaggerating, It's one of the most breathtaking video games I've ever played.
You're not the only person I've heard say that.
Honestly, mate, it's. I don't know if I'm looking at it in a different perspective because of my appreciation for Hideo Kojima,
right?
Or I don't know if there's been times when I've played it and I've thought, how have the developers even made this possible? Even small things like when the player's walking, how does the character react so perfectly to its surroundings? And to the point where one time I was playing it and I literally just went on a hike through the mountains and just stopped off at points and was just looking around. And after it, I genuinely felt like I'd gone on a real adventure somewhere, not that I'd just played a video game.
Wow.
And, honestly, I was certain I was going to do a review of it or an episode of some sort, but I'm not even sure I'm going to, because I just don't think I can do it justice the way I'd want to, because, like I say, without wanting to go too overboard on it, it's so close right now to being my favorite video game ever made. And for anything to ever challenge Metal Gear Solid for me is like unheard of.
Okay, so after hearing you say that, man, you've got to do some kind of video or a video series on it, because I feel like you need to get your thoughts out there about the game, because it sounds like you would be able to provide a real good perspective about it. Because me personally, so I haven't bought it yet and I haven't played it, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, based on what I've seen in gameplay footage, in videos, what I've read about the game, what I've seen in spoiler-free reviews, because I do not want to get the story spoiled.
Oh yeah, you don't want spoilers.
I know without a shadow of a doubt that I will enjoy the game quite a bit. I just haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, but it is definitely on my radar. And it's been interesting seeing the two sides of the coin of people that are on this camp that love it, and then people that are on the camp that hate it, because it seems like they're either going to love it or they're going to hate it. There are some people that are kind of in the middle, but most people are on one of those two extremes.
It's quite polarizing. Yeah,
it is very polarizing. And I guess at the end of the day, it's not a game that's going to appeal to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I can definitely, I think I would go into it from the same perspective as you, as being a fan of Hideo Kojima, and appreciating the complexity of the game from a game development standpoint, and appreciating just how monumental of a game it is. Because from everything that I've seen, the game is just, epic. It seems like
it truly is. Yeah. And the strangest thing for me, right, is the thing that almost every single video game, unless it's a video game I've played with friends, and had great memories, like NBA Street, Burnout games, things like that. Every game I've ever played by myself, the only games I ever really class as up there in my top 10 list are ones with heavy stories in them. I'm massive into my stories in video games. Metal Gear Solid 5 I really did not enjoy, because the story element was just not there for me. Yet it's probably the best recreation of stealth in gaming, at least from the Metal Gear Solid series anyway. Death Stranding, when I think about it, the story's actually weak compared to what I would have expected from Hideo Kojima. I think if you compare it to a lot of video games, it's a strong enough storyline. But that was one of the first things I noticed about it. Like the story just wasn't as rich. The story wasn't as rich. The world, though, the world just seems to be so real and so believable. And like the old saying, like, it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And I've always appreciated that saying, that mentality. But I think it's very difficult to appreciate that in the moment. Like, when you're doing something, you're always looking for the destination. Do you know what I mean? And people will tell you it's the journey, and you might look back and realize, wow, that was a great, path to wherever, whatever I was aiming to get, whether it's, like a YouTube career, whether it's climbing a mountain or whatever. This is the first time where in the moment I'm able to recognize and realize it's the journey in this game that's so amazing.
Right.
It's the world, literally just the environment is the story.
Mm-hmm.
not the actual like, you know, characters,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or the like the transcript or whatever. It's literally walking from one point to the next in itself. Every single time I play it, it feels like I'm playing another little story, another little adventure. Almost every pickup of the controller, I remember vividly because it was all so different and so memorable. And I think that's why it's been such a huge game for me. I'm at a point in my gaming career, if you want to call it like that, you know what I mean? Where I don't think I'm going to easily be impressed by video games anymore. Especially not to the point where they hit me in a memorable way.
Right.
And this took me completely by surprise.
Very nice.
I knew coming into it was a Hideo Kojima game, but for the longest time I thought, I just don't think I'm going to like it. I really, going into it, as much as I wanted, didn't think I would like it, and it's totally blown me away. I do want to do an episode, but I have a couple of reservations about that, really. The first one is I would worry about coming across too pretentious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think it's the kind of game that is art to me. That video game is 100% pure art. And I think I would come across maybe sounding as if I was trying to, you know, sound smarter than I am or anything like that.
Right.
When the reality is I'm genuinely just trying to explain how it feels to me. But I'm aware, even listening to myself sometimes, that still to this day, people don't talk about video games regularly in that way. And I think, you know, it might, I wouldn't want to come across pretentious and therefore just make people think, oh, this guy is just, you know.
Hey, you could always throw a disclaimer in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The video.
The other thing as well, though, is, again, because it's art, I think it's one of the few games that I could appreciate and love so much, yet at the same time 100% understand why somebody wouldn't enjoy it.
Right.
I completely get the other side of the argument. You know, it makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
It's not a game for everybody.
Right.
It depends what you're looking for in video games. And if you're not looking for it, you'll really won't enjoy it. And that's completely fine. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely see that there is a video in you about that. For real. And
you know I'm going to make it. You know I can't help myself.
Yeah. I think you have to, man, because I would love to see your real detailed perspective and thoughts on the game. So I'm looking forward to that. Anything else you've been playing besides?
Games. So I've also, funnily enough, been playing San Andreas on my mobile phone.
Oh, nice. How's that working?
I never thought I'd be sat here saying I'm playing a mobile phone.
On the touch screen or using a controller?
Well, this is the difference. I've had it. I bought it like ages ago. Played it once on the touch screen. I was like, you can't play Grand Theft Auto on touch screen. And I've not touched mobile games apart from when I created one.
Yeah.
For like, 5 years. Only really when they were starting to be a bit of a gimmick, I suppose. But since I got onto the Project X Cloud beta and I got my Xbox One controller and started playing some Xbox games on the phone, that transformed it for me, to be honest. Once you've got like a real controller in your hand and your phone is just turned into the screen rather than the actual gaming device, it suddenly felt like a handheld, like a PS Vita or something. But even better because you've got a proper controller, not some kind of portable device controller. So I thought I might give San Andreas another go, actually, and I've just been absolutely hooked.
Nice.
It's ideal for me because I struggle to find time to sit in front of a full TV and a console to actually play some games. So I can just pick it up and play a few levels. And on top of that, I've been playing a lot of Wii with my son.
Oh, nice.
We're kind of dipping in and out of a lot of different games. He's actually on the PlayStation 3 been playing a lot of Disney Infinity.
Nice.
That's actually really good fun with him.
Yeah.
We've been playing a lot of Disney games on the Wii. We were just playing Ratatouille, actually, which isn't a particularly great game. We love the movie. It's not a great game because it is painfully difficult in not a really well-designed way. Do you know what I mean? It's like it kind of cheats you a little bit. But, when I play games with my son, I play them in a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
So we're just having loads of fun anyway, and
Yeah.
it's just funny how like frustrated we both get when we're trying to complete a certain level.
Nice.
So yeah.
That sounds like
that. Really.
That sounds like another fun video doing a let's play with you and your son.
Yeah. That could be fun actually.
Yeah. So as far as what I've been playing, I've been playing these days. Pretty much everything I play, mostly is for a video.
Mm-hmm.
So and I do a lot of GameCube related videos on the channel, my GameCube Gallery series. So I just recently finished up Dragon's Lair 3D Return to the Lair on the GameCube.
Oh, cool.
I've already edited and uploaded that video. It's not coming out till sometime in July, so I got that one done pretty early. And then I started playing Skies of Arcadia Legends, so that's going to be another GameCube Gallery episode once I finish working through that. Other than that, the only time I can really find time to get some gaming in is on the Switch Lite. I play a lot of handheld to get some gaming in. And I've been on an indie game kick here lately, a massive indie kick.
I like to hear that.
Yeah. So I recently played and beat Hotline Miami 2, or the first Hotline Miami.
Fantastic game.
Awesome game. So damn hard.
The atmosphere in it as well is just superb.
Yeah.
I played that shortly after watching the movie Drive. I don't know if you've seen Drive.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, mate, it's like the video game of the movie, honestly.
Really?
You should watch Drive. Fantastic film.
But I played and beat that, and actually it was a few days ago that I beat that, and then I immediately started Hotline Miami 2, so I'm working my way through that. Game is kicking my ass, man. It is not an easy game. But it's fun and it's really well designed. So and when you die, it's not because of anything unfair. It's because you just haven't learned the level yet.
Yeah. It's an amazing gameplay design. What they did with Hotline Miami was like perfect design because, like you say, you never felt cheated, but you were always instantly ready to try again.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They did a great job with that. What else have I been playing? I've been playing some Doom 2016 on stream. We did 2 streams playing that. I'm not sure when I'm going to play it again because I got really pissed off. The first level where you're in hell, I got my ass handed to me and I got really pissed off to the point to where in the middle of the stream, I'm like, guys, I can't play this anymore. I'm playing some Super Mario Maker.
Yeah. So, it's harder playing games on stream though, man.
It is. It definitely is. And then the only other thing that I've been playing lately is Glow. I started playing Glow.
Happy days.
And, we're gonna talk about that here in a little bit. I'll give you my thoughts on the game because I'm sure you'd love to hear that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. It's like just like you. I don't have kids, but just like you, I have a hard time finding time to sit in front of a console and actually play a game. And every time I try to, I end up not being able to finish it. Like I started Horizon Zero Dawn about a month ago. I played it for about 5 hours and I haven't been able to go back to it. And it sucks because I was enjoying the game.
Yeah, it's difficult. You wouldn't think it would be difficult, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So do you intend to play and do an episode of every single game in the GameCube library?
That is the idea. However, there are some caveats to that. I do not like sports games. So I like, well, let me rephrase that. I don't like realistic sports games. I like arcade sports games like NBA Jam or NHL Hits or arcade sports games. I enjoy those, but I do not like realistic sports games. I'm just not much of a sports person.
You played them once, you played them 100 times as
well. Yeah, exactly. So I doubt that I'm going to do a video on the sports games.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. Maybe at some point I can talk my editor into doing the sports games because he does like sports games. So maybe at some point I can talk him into maybe doing some GameCube Gallery episodes on his own on the sports games, but that remains to be seen. But other than that, the idea is to play through as many games in the GameCube library as possible and do a video on each one. Sometimes I put more than one game in a video, like my James Bond video. I covered 2 James Bond games in one video. And I'm going to do PAL exclusive games too. I'm awesome. I'm fixing to have a GameCube, a PAL GameCube. I'm buying it next Friday. And my friend, I've got a friend in the UK named Leon, special effects guy.
SFX guy, yeah.
Yeah. SFX Leon.
We had a pretty good gift battle a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
It was
nice.
I thought it was never going to end.
Nice, man. I wish I hadn't missed that. Yeah,
Man.
he's a good dude, man, a good dude. And he's going to help me find some GameCube PAL exclusives. So I'm going to send him a list, and he's going to help me out with that. But yeah. So
Excellent.
it's fun. I enjoy it. I have a lot of love for the GameCube.
Something else I want to ask you actually:
Okay.
how many episodes do you have prepped to go at any one point in time?
Of GameCube Gallery?
Of just any episode?
Oh, just any episode?
Yeah.
Let's see. That's a good question. Let me pull up my video schedule.
This is already more than me.
Let's see. Right now, I have my May pickups video edited and uploaded. Actually, it comes out tomorrow, so that video comes out tomorrow.
Awesome.
I've got a video coming out next Thursday. It's all done. And then I've got I filmed, you're going to like this, a Sega Master System PAL exclusive Hidden Gems video. So
nice.
I filmed that. My nephew's editing that one. Other than that, the only video that I've got done and ready to go ahead of time is that Dragon's Lair 3D GameCube Gallery video. But I am working on trying to get as ahead as possible.
I struggle, mate. I think the
it's
most
hard,
I've
man.
ever been ahead is like 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I started doing more than 1 episode a week,
Yeah.
that all just kind of crumbled, and I'm literally like 1 episode to the next.
Yeah. Well, one thing that enables me to be able to do that is the fact that I do have a partner in the YouTube channel, my nephew, because he edits. Me and him kind of split editing duty. So usually it's like 1 video a week he'll edit, 1 video a week I'll edit. So that makes it easier for me to get ahead, because a lot of times all I got to do is film them, turn them over to him, and let him do his thing. So without him, though, I probably would not be able to work ahead like that. So so
I need to get an editor.
It's
I need to start training my son.
there you go. That should be interesting. So let me ask you this, man. Along the same topic, what games are you looking forward to, like in the immediate future, that are coming?
Right now, it's probably all going to be PS5 focused after the reveal just haven't happened. So Spider-Man Miles Morales, I'm really psyched for that. I've always loved Miles Morales, the character. I used to, before I collected video games, I was massively into comic book collecting. And when they, in the Ultimate Spider-Man universe, when they killed off Peter Parker and brought in Miles Morales, that was like at my peak of being interested in comic books, and like I bought all the collected versions of that. And as I was reading that comic, I've never experienced like an introduction of a new character. Like new characters in comic books are quite rare, especially in like the Marvel and the DC universe. So I was a bit apprehensive, like, can they really introduce a character, especially on the back of like killing off Peter Parker? And it's one of the best character storylines I've read in any Marvel comics, to be honest. I love the introduction of Miles Morales. And then obviously more recently with the Into the Spider-Verse movie.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, like, when that was coming out, I was like, finally, like, I always wanted him to get more attention and more in the limelight, because, like I said, he was just a great character and he had a good storyline. It wasn't just like a regurgitation of Peter Parker. It was a genuinely like unique character.
It was, yeah.
And like Into the Spider-Verse just nailed it. It was so good.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
So I cannot wait to play Miles Morales. But having said that, I haven't even played Spider-Man on PS4. So
really?
I've got to catch up on that.
Dude, yes, you got to make that happen, because that is a fantastic game. The story is great. The gameplay is great. The combat is incredible. You got to play it, man. It's and you can play through it relatively quickly if you don't try to 100% the game. I would say 10 to 20 hours you could probably play through it.
I used to try on 100% games back when me and my mate were competing on PlayStation Score. You know, trying to see who had most trophies. Yeah. And it became like a second job trying to get all the platinums, and then I thought, I'm not enjoying video games anymore, so I don't even bother trying to. I rarely even put the difficulty level. I used to always go 1 level up from the standard. I don't even bother now, because it just takes me longer to complete it. But I'll probably be able to play that with my son. So I should be able to crack through that one quite quickly, actually. On top of that, I'm really interested in Hitman 3. I absolutely love my stealth games, but Hitman is a series I haven't really delved into. I played it. Well, I played it back in like the early 2000s on
Mm-hmm.
PC, and I was at uni, and my like attention
Mm-hmm.
span was a lot less than it is now.
Yeah.
So it was just a bit too difficult. When I
Mm-hmm.
play a stealth game, I want to be stealthy,
Yeah.
and it was too difficult to maintain stealth in Hitman because it was
It's
just
tough.
so good, really.
Yeah.
But after seeing the Hitman 3 trailer and
Mm-hmm.
there in Dubai, it looked pretty epic.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And Kana, Bridge of Spirits, the one that looks a bit like a Pixar game.
That looks like a good game.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the graphics look so nice in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like Japanese culture as well. And it looks like it's got a little bit of hint of Japanese culture to it.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
Nice.
And then other ones, standard ones like Resident Evil 8, looking forward to that. And some of the new IPs as well. Project Athia I thought looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, I forget what it's called now, the one by Bethesda where you kind of Deathloop.
Deathloop. Yeah, dude, that looked like a badass game.
Yeah. That's a launch title, so
yeah,
that might be one of the first games I get for the PS5.
Nice.
And the last one, Pragmata or whatever it's called, because it's when I saw the trailer for that, I was like, this is a Hideo Kojima game. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's not though. It's like Capcom, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's got that same kind of like intrigue to it. Like, I wonder what the hell's going on here. So they're the games I'm looking forward to right now.
Nice.
My eye out for those.
Nice. Right now, I've only got 4 games on my immediate horizon. Of course, I'm looking forward to all the games that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But those are a little bit further into the future. Unfortunately, I wish we could get them now.
Yeah.
But it'll be worth the wait. But right now, there's 4 games I'm really most looking forward to. Number 1, of course, is The Last of Us Part 2. I took off work next Friday. I'm picking up the game from Best Buy that morning, and I've already blocked off pretty much, besides Father's Day, I blocked off the entire weekend. I'm going to binge play the hell out of that game, and I'm going to do I've decided I'm going to do a review video, which is going to be a first on the channel because I've never done a PS4 game review.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be a first. I'm excited for that.
Forgive me if I don't watch that.
Oh, no, you're
just
good.
Because,
I'll say this. It's going to be 100% spoiler-free.
Yeah, I'm just really funny when it comes to spoilers. I find opinions can be spoilers for me. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to my goal with that video is to be able to provide my review on the game without spoiling anything. I'm going to be
awesome.
It's going to be very, very scripted, and I'm going to be very careful to do that. So I'll let you know when it's done. I'll let you know if I think it's safe.
I'll watch it.
But I mean, if you're worried about anything being spoiled, you don't have to watch it. So don't feel like you have to watch it.
No, it's cool. I will watch it.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, and then I'm also looking forward to this is kind of a weird one, but I'm looking forward to SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated because I love that damn game. It's one of my it's not one of my maybe it is. It's definitely pretty high on my.
You referred to this in your Q&A, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I remember that.
And I did an episode of GameCube Gallery on the GameCube version of it. So I'm going to play through that, and I'm going to do an episode on that, reviewing it, comparing it to the original, that sort of thing. And then I'm also looking forward to the new Paper Mario game that comes out in July. I took off a Friday and a Monday for that one. So I'm probably going to stream that one a lot too, because that's a game that I can stream without people really getting spoiled on anything. I'm not going to stream The Last of Us at all. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And plus, I think with a game like that, like we were saying earlier, you play games completely differently when you're streaming them. And first game I streamed live was Metal Gear Solid, and I stopped. I was going to do the whole game, but I decided to stop because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't enjoying it.
It's tough.
Because I was enjoying chatting with people rather than playing the game.
Yeah.
If there's a heavy story element, I think it's quite difficult to put the focus on both sides, isn't it?
It is, for sure. It really is. And that's a game that I want to – The Last of Us Part 2 is a game that I want to give my full undivided attention to. So there's Paper Mario, and also Ghost of Tsushima. That game looks amazing, so I'm looking forward to that.
That does look good.
I'm not going to buy it day one because I've decided I'm going to get Paper Mario instead because I'm a huge Paper Mario fan. But I will get it eventually. And those are pretty much the games that I'm looking forward to in the immediate future. that I'll be playing and doing some videos on and things like that. Yeah,
I'd normally probably have more immediate games that I would be referring to, but I've made a decision now to just hold off buying games and save for the PS5.
Yeah,
it'll be the first console, proper console. The PSP I bought on launch, but it'll be the first proper console I buy on launch.
Yeah.
And I'm going to want to get a few games with it as well. So I persuaded my wife that it was a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think I could persuade her it was a good idea if I was buying loads of video games now as well. So
No, I got you, man. And plus, we don't know how expensive it's going to be yet. So there's that,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So if it's $600 and you get 2 games, that's after tax. Well, I'm talking about American dollars. After tax, you're close to $800. So that's a lot of money.
I know. And to be honest, it's like when something comes out in the US at $600, it doesn't follow the difference to the pound. They just kind of price it over in the UK as a similar number rather than the actual value. So we might get it, if you had it at $600, we might get it at £550.
Yeah, I got you.
But to be honest, I don't know what the rate is these days. It's like with the world in the state it is now, I've got God knows what the rates are. All
right, cool, man. So let's talk about video game development a little bit more. So I find it very fascinating how you described your journey, because it sounds like you took a very iterative approach in that you started very simple with the mobile game, which, by the way, what was the name of that mobile game again?
Cute Cat Splat.
Cute Cat Splat.
Yeah.
And is it still out there?
Unfortunately, it's not on.
Oh, man.
It's not on Google anymore. I can sort it out so it goes on Google. They just changed the age rating systems and all that sometime last year. Yeah. And I didn't update the age rating for it, so it didn't end up being brought into the to the Play Store. They took it off, so I could get it put on there, but I think it might be on some. So you can get these other smaller like Android game stores. It might be around there, but there's actually a review of it on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, a channel called LimeWire. Yeah, they were a small channel at the time, but they picked it up and did a little review of it.
Nice. Yeah, I would like to play it, man. I really would.
I gotta be honest, I'm quite proud of it. I don't really refer to it all that much because it's a mobile game. It's called Cute Cat Splat. I was just playing around with the concept. But my wife said to me one time, "That's the first video game you ever made," and that's something special.
Exactly.
So, I mean, when I look back at it, I'm really proud of it. One thing for me, well, 2 things actually for me when it comes to video game development that I try to ensure I can at least try my best to achieve. The first one is to try and not have any bugs. Yeah, if possible. It's really difficult being a solo developer and having a limited, obviously, test group to, it's friends and family, really. But, by no means am I expecting to reach these standards. But, you pick up a game like Mario and you just don't expect, you're not going to find a bug. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Especially if you're 2D Marios yet. You're not worried about a bug and you're just playing the game for pure experience. So, I was quite pleased that it was a solid game that I'd created when I brought it out. There were no real issues. It wasn't that difficult to do. It wasn't a difficult game to create, but there was no real like bugs with it or any problems. And also, the second thing is that with every single game, I want to create a cohesive experience. When it comes from sound, visual, and gameplay, I want those 3 things to tie up, and alongside that, thread, even if it's the most smallest minuscule storyline, but thread a little bit of a story. Yeah. So then the player doesn't just feel like they're playing just a game, if you know what I mean. They feel like there's actually a little world here, as small as it might be.
I see that. I see that in Glow, which we're going to talk more about in just a minute. But I see
sure. A really, really great indie game studio that I look up to called Vlambeer. A lot of people don't know them by name, but maybe have played some of the games. Nuclear Throne's a really popular one.
I've heard of that one, but I've never played it. Yeah,
I think you'll enjoy that. It's good. Yeah. They said the same thing in like a podcast that I was watching once, and they had a video game which was just some guy that was fishing with shotguns and grenade launchers. It was just, they come up with the most craziest ideas for a video game.
Yeah.
But what they do is they'll always put a little element of story in it, even if it's minuscule.
Yeah.
And it transforms it from just some silly idea to a concept, if you know what I mean. And I feel I achieved that with Cute Cat Splat, with what I was trying to do. So
what kind of game is it?
So you know how Flappy Bird is like, you're going across and you've got like, things you've got to go under and all that. Cute Cat Splat's the same kind of concept, but instead of going across, you're going upwards. So you've got a cat that's like at the bottom of the screen. And you've got fences that are coming down, at different levels. And you just basically got to guide the cat in and around the fences. But a couple of little like changes I put in there to make it a little bit more interesting was one that's called Cute Cat Splat. So it's like a cute little cat. All the colors are like nice. But when you hit a fence, it just splats on the screen.
Nice.
So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, nice.
And the other thing is, as you're going through the fences and that, there's little bits of catnip that are around. So if you can catch a piece of catnip, like all these stars start flashing around.
I like that.
And the cat goes into like beast mode almost, and you can just smash through the fences.
Nice.
So for like, about 10 seconds, you can just smash through all the fences and go further. But it's a fun, challenging game. And, everyone had fun playing it. Everyone was nicely surprised by it. So I'll bring it back onto the Play Store, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to play it, man. Yeah, I'd like to play it. Not only to support you as an indie game dev, but also I'm intrigued by it. I'd like to check it out. So cool, man. So all right, so let's talk about Glow for a little bit, because I've been playing Glow and I've been enjoying it, although it is kicking my ass from time to time. Definitely a pretty challenging game. I will admit, when I played it last night with a controller, it made it a little bit easier than using a keyboard for sure. But I'm on level 34, so I beat the first boss last night. Made it to level 34, and then I rage quit.
Yeah, it does that.
So all right. So I like the game a lot. I like it has like a very minimalistic art style to it, which I like. I appreciate games with minimalistic art styles whenever somebody that can take that minimalistic art style and do a lot with it, which you did in that game. I like the concept behind it, because it's not just a little platformer. It's a little platformer where you've got to deal with darkness, and you have to use light to your advantage to be able to find the path through the level to get to the exit and see where the enemies are so that you can deal with the enemies. And I like that you added the ability to shoot to create a little temporary path of light. It all and the power-ups that you can find. I found the purple one for the first time yesterday that shoots up or wherever direction you shoot it, and it goes boom. And then yeah, man, that one was cool. I like that one a lot.
I love that one.
And I like the one that's kind of like you're playing Pong. It kind of ricochets off the walls.
The pinball one.
Yeah, that was cool. But I like how you designed the game, and what you told me the other day, that it's 100 levels, and you said every 25 levels there's a boss, and then after you beat after you beat a boss, there's a new gameplay mechanic introduced. And I experienced that last night when I beat the first boss with the yellow blocks that disappear after you touch them, and that one simple mechanic created a whole new dynamic to the levels. It created a whole new dynamic, because now you're not just trying to navigate the levels, you're trying to navigate the levels faster, because
under
all
pressure,
of a sudden, under pressure, because your wall or your platform is disappearing. So you got to move. You can't just sit there and plan your next move. You just got to move. So I find that to be and it makes me want to see what other mechanics, which don't tell me because I don't want to have it spoiled, but it makes me want to see the other mechanics that come later in the game. But I really like it, man. I like it. And I noticed that after that first set of 25 levels that the music changed too. So does the music change every 25 levels too?
Yeah, and conceptually I'm happy with every decision I made in the game, but it has brought me a little bit of flack when it came to people reviewing it, because of the difficulty. Not everyone gets past the 25th level, so a lot of reviews just said it has the same one song playing throughout all of it. But there was a reason behind having a different song for each each like phase of the game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, each one has a different. So there's 4 different tracks in it.
Yeah. Well,
for every 25.
To defend you a little bit, nobody should review a game that they haven't even made it a quarter of the way through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe they could have just gave their impressions on it instead of a review. But I like it, man. I'm really enjoying it. I like the difficulty of it. I'm gonna have to play it in short bursts because but not that I'm frustrated with the game, but difficult games like that, whenever I fail over and over, I get pissed off. Not at the game, I just get pissed off at myself.
It's a game to be played like that, I think.
Yeah.
In short bursts. There've been people who've played it in long sittings, and I can get onto that in a bit actually. But I didn't design it as a game that's just gonna, you have to do it in one go. It's something you can come back to.
Yeah. Have you thought about porting that to other consoles?
Yeah, I have actually. There's 2 difficulties with that, really. The first difficulty is approaching console manufacturers. I approached Sony, I approached Microsoft. Sony, I just didn't hear back from. Microsoft, I heard back from them, and they said they've got they've got 2 kind of programs. One whereby you can just put it on their effective app store, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the one where it would actually appear in like the Xbox store on like Xbox One and stuff like that. I really wanted to get into the Xbox program because they gave free development kits, and that's the other side of the problem with porting is the extra cost. You've got to buy development kits, and you've got to do testing on the development kits. But obviously the console I really wanted to get onto was the Switch, because when I first approached them was when Steam had a golden age of indie game development, and it was 2008, let's say. It started to dwindle a bit, and when Steam Direct happened, and for anyone that doesn't know what that is, to get games onto Steam, I think in the mid-2000s, they introduced Greenlight, where you put like your game out there and people could effectively upvote it. If it got enough upvotes, it got greenlit, and then it was available. Any games that got greenlit on Steam had already gone through like a curation period, and were heavily like focused on, had a lot of coverage on the main front page of Steam. So straight away you got like free advertising basically. Steam Direct was a change to Greenlight where they you pay $100 per video game to put on Steam, which is great because it makes you can put any indie game developer can make their dreams come true basically for the cost of like $100 to go on Steam. But the problem is it then started to get saturated and overloaded. So the golden age of Steam kind of died away for indie game developers. I still believe it is as I'm trying to think of the right word. It's as much of an opportunity as it always was. It's just you don't get the free advertising along with it. When the Nintendo Switch came along, like I got one like not too far off the release, and I literally had like 2 games for it for the longest period of time. There wasn't a lot of games released for it at first, were there? And when you went on the store, the Nintendo store, there was hardly any games there. So when they opened up the doors for indie developers, straight away, like especially because they were cheaper games as well, they were getting loads of eyes on them, and that was like the next golden age for indie game developers. Was people were stating that they were getting the same sales for games they'd released on Steam like 10 years ago. They were getting the same sales again on the Switch. Wow! So I really wanted to get on the Switch, but it's who you know. It really is who you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got like some friends in the indie game, in the indie development world that have gotten on to Switch, and like the games have been quite successful. And they give me a lot of information, and I've basically followed every kind of step that I need to approach them in the right way. But unless you really have a contact, whether you've met them through expos, or it's more often as well in the US, if you can meet people, that's where a lot of the Nintendo Switch kind of contacts, are at your E3s and stuff like that. It makes it really difficult. You could say maybe Glow wasn't a good enough game to get onto the Switch, and I'd 100% accept that, you know what I mean? But I've seen some games on the Switch and
that are hot garbage. There's
yeah,
I don't know if that's what you're gonna say, but there are some garbage games on there.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't go out and just criticize them.
Yeah.
But the one thing I could definitely say was that my pitch for Glow puts it in a position that looks a lot better than the actual store page of that specific game. I will never question an indie developer's intention or passion for a project. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's games there that, you know, are just they've got terrible scores as well. So
there's a lot of cash grabs on there. You know what I mean? And games that are cash grabs typically do not have the passion behind them.
Yeah, exactly. That happens. It happens in every kind of creative outlet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And with Glow, I had a bit more of belief than just my own, thoughts, because I let friends and family play it, and they all inevitably enjoyed it and said it was great, whether they really did or didn't. But it was after I'd gone to the expo, and people who I'd never seen before, you know, some came up to me and were like, "This is way too hard, mate. I'm not interested." But I'd say about like 80 to close to 90% of people picked it up and they were like, what's this? You know, for anyone who's not seen it, it's just a black screen with like a little glowing circle where your character is. Like, well, what's the point of this game? And people would just be intrigued and start playing it. And I had loads of people over the 2 days coming back and playing again and playing again. Nice. I had one lady that was stood there for, in total, she came back a couple of times, 6 hours.
Really?
Yeah, and completed 50 levels in the game.
Wow.
And you know how hard that is, right?
Yeah.
And on day one, when it came out, she messaged me on Twitter and she's like, "I completed it." And I was like, nice. How have you completed it? It's like unbelievable. And then reviews that I've had, you know, of people that I don't know, you know, I could have easily, you know, said whatever they wanted. You know, you can see they're not just, you know, giving, you know, 8 out of 10s to every game. I've reviewed it like well enough, you know, and, you know, some people have given it like 8 out of 10 and that. So I had the confidence it was a game that was good enough to get onto a Switch.
It absolutely is.
Thank you. But yeah, it's just a massive battle. And even if I did get onto the Switch, the difficult part then is the actual development kits. They don't say how much they cost. It's like NDA kind of information.
Yeah.
But from, you know, hearsay, I think they're around about the $600 mark.
Really?
Or something, which would be an investment worth making, especially in the early days, because you could easily like make that back when indie games were selling heavily, but were hot on the Switch. But on top of that, I built Glow in Game Maker Studio 2. And Game Maker Studio is an engine whereby you purchase a license per platform. Yeah. So I bought it for the one that I've got covers Linux, PC, and Macs. If I wanted to buy the license for the Nintendo Switch, that would have been an extra $600. So instantly it would have been like $1,400 to just even start the process of porting it. Yeah. And that's why subsequent games now I've moved over to Unity, because Unity's free. You can build it to any you know system, and you don't have that worry about licenses like that.
Just out of curiosity, with Game Maker, because I've toyed around with Game Maker Studio a little bit, the free version. I've toyed around with some tutorials and stuff. Did you do the sort of drag and drop method, or did you use coding?
So I started with the drag and drop method. And I'm a software developer by trade. When I first started developing video games, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to develop the engine, the lot. I felt like if I didn't, I'd be cheating. But then I heard this analogy somewhere of somebody who wanted a jumper, a sweater. And so they decided, well, I want to knit the sweater myself. I want to make it. And then they were like, oh, well, I've got to get wool for it. Okay, I want to make my own wool. So they wanted to shear a sheep, and they're like, well, if I'm shearing the sheep, I want to have my own sheep. So then they ended up becoming a sheep farmer when all they wanted to do was make a sweater. And it made me realize you don't have to build everything from the ground up every time for it to legitimately be, you know, your own creation. So that's when I moved over to Game Maker Studio, and the drag and drop system just looked really appealing. It looked like a really nice idea, but about a quarter of the way into development, I realized it was limited.
That's what I was about to say. It's sort of limited,
Yeah. If you want to start messing about with the feel of the character's movement and motion. You know, if you want putting in like, you know, some of the animation or the like the stuff in for the bosses was quite a challenge for me, and in Game Maker Studio anyway, and using the drag and drop system wouldn't have worked. I ended up developing a lot quicker once I went into code.
Nice.
And the coding language it's GML, so it's like a pseudo code. It's
Isn't
not
it
like
sort of like C# or something? Isn't it similar to C# code?
Yeah, I mean, C# is probably one of the most user-friendly coding languages I've come across. So I find it similar to C#, but like a step up again in terms of easiness. So like when you write pseudocode, you know, instead of having to worry about all the parentheses and the semicolons to make sure that those lines execute, you just write it out, you know, almost as if you wanted someone to just read it and understand it. And GML's a lot like that.
Nice.
In terms of a coding language, I think it's absolutely fantastic for, you know, what it's designed for. It's brilliant. It's really good. But yeah, the only problem with Game Maker Studio is if you wanted to then port your games elsewhere. I mean, like Hotline Miami was created in Game Maker Studio.
Was it Hyperlight Drifter?
Yeah, Hyperlight Drifter was. Loads of games, like indie games, were created in Game Maker Studio. But what happens quite often is when they hit a level of popularity and they do decide to port, quite often they'll end up themselves or employing somebody to rebuild it, either in their own engine or in something like Unity.
Right.
Because Game Maker does have its limitations.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why Unity for me now is what I would go to primarily.
And Unity, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does straight up use C#, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can use JavaScript if you want, but I use C. Yeah, JavaScript or C#.
Nice.
But I think C#'s personally, I think C# a better language to use.
Yeah.
Sorry, whichever one you use, you get the exact same level of support
Gotcha.
online. So you can pick whichever one you want.
Yeah. See, because I'm currently going to school for software development right now, working on a degree, and I've taken some Java courses, and I think I've already taken a C# course. No, it was a C++. I took a C++ course. I've got a C# course coming up at some point. But and then my job at work involves a lot of. I don't directly have to do any coding, but I work with a lot of people that do. It's a data analytics and reporting type job, so I work a lot with SQL and different things. Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of getting into that world, and that experience I feel like is going to help me. And I'm sure you being a software developer, that software development background probably helped you in game development too, right?
It helped me
as far as the coding aspect of it goes.
Yeah, it helped me have some. It helped me be comfortable navigating around the code.
Yeah.
But I became a much more confident and adept programmer once I started game developing.
Oh, nice.
In my career, and I think that occurs with a lot of careers as well, you know, there's a lot of red tape you've got to follow. And there's certain ways you've got to do things, and there's very little exploration you can do. You know, you've got a task, you've got to do that task. You can't, unless you're working for Google, they don't really let you play around with ideas and that. When it came to game development, it was just like a playground for me. Free world, you know, start messing about with different things. And I was looking into concepts and ideas, and I was always aware of the whole idea of like, you know, like model-based engineering, where, you know, you create something that's reusable. But in my field of engineering, we create a small part of like the bigger piece of software, because the software is so big, everyone's creating a small part, so you don't get the whole like piece of the puzzle really. Game development, sorry,
no, I was just going to quickly ask, where you work, do you guys follow like certain methodologies like Scrum or Agile, things like that?
We're quite late to Scrum and Agile, but it's something I'm more comfortable with, and I think it's definitely a really useful technique. But when it came to like developing my own video game, it really brought back the passion that I had for software when I was younger, which was you're creating something, and then when you hit play, you see that thing come to life.
Yeah.
And I had to know every single part and how it all pieced together, every single interface and everything that, that made that jigsaw into like the finished product. And having to see that bigger picture of something just made my competency with like C# go through the roof, to be honest. And every single week I'd be faced with a new challenge. Not so much in Glow. Glow was a much more simple game to make. Platformers are, once you get the basic pattern, it's just tweaking it.
Right.
But the game I'm developing now, Gym Empire, which is like a tycoon game.
Yeah.
That's a tycoon game is all about what's happening behind the scenes. It's algorithms, systems, and everything. And every single week and even to this day, I'm faced with a new problem. Something I've never seen before, never dealt with before. And in the first few months of game development, every time I hit that point, I had this like overwhelming doubt come over me, thinking, this is where my journey ends. I won't be able to get past this. I won't be able to make the game. But I managed to get past every single one of those hurdles, to the point now where whenever I see a challenge, I don't feel like, oh my God, this could be the end of my journey. It's just how and when am I just going to get past this problem? Some take longer, some don't, but to this day, and it's thanks to Google, thanks to YouTube and everybody else out there who knows how to do it better than me, that I can tap in and find a tutorial or rework an idea into something that I need.
Skillshare and Udemy, those are also great resources.
They are good, yeah. Get loads of adverts for those.
Okay, so I've got another question for you about Glow, something I was curious about as I was playing it. So my question for you is, did you develop every aspect of that game? So did you do all the assets? Did you do the music, the sound effects, the level design? Is it a one-man show, or did you have some people help you with the music? How did you go about all that?
The only thing I didn't make was the music.
Okay.
I don't really know where to start making music, to be honest. Literally have no idea where I'd start. So the music was assets that I purchased the license for. But I had a very strong idea on what I wanted that music to sound like. Everything else I created myself. And the aesthetic behind it, it's part functional and part, what I wanted to portray in terms of the artistic kind of idea behind it. There was a game that I came across when I was first looking into some podcasts and that, and there was a game developer that was he's called Zach Bell. He's a young game developer.
I've heard that name before.
Possibly, yeah. He's I don't know if you've heard the game Ink.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Ink.
Yeah. So I saw the game Ink. And he was talking about his like journey, and his journey in the game development is a really intriguing one. And he was lucky enough to get his game picked up by Markiplier.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And at the time when I think Markiplier had probably about 2 million subs at the time, so that his game just went through the roof. And anyway, I was following his story. And I'd never seen the game Ink before, but when he was describing it, they described it as like, it's a world where you can't see any of the platforms, but you're this this square, and as you jump, you splat ink every time you jump, and as you move across, you like leave an ink trail wherever you are. So the more you jump in that, you start splatting ink around the level, and you can start to see where you're going. And I just thought that was like a wonderful idea, wonderful concept, and it got my mind racing. About the idea of being in a video game world where you don't know what's around you.
Right.
And there's two things that really intrigue me about that. The first thing is like that almost suspenseful feeling, like if you are in the dark and you don't know if something's this close to you or not, you know what I mean? Because you can't see. And with Glow, that was something I was in the back of my mind, was beyond that small circle, you could have one of the creatures coming over towards you.
The little purple guys.
The little purple guys, and not even know. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of like jump scare moment where you just see a tiny bit of it and you're like, crap, something's there.
They snuck up on me a few times.
The other thing was, and there's two games that really come to mind was when I think of this idea, was the idea of parts of the world not being seen or not being visible to the player that they may never ever go to, they may never approach and not even know is there. And it's a bit more difficult in today's world of online, and everybody knows, you know, you can find out anything you want about any video game. But when I was first playing Mario and somebody first referred to the warp zones to me, I was like, my mind was blown. I'd passed that point like hundreds of times, and I did not know that that was just behind the wall. And that concept to me was like so like powerful. From a gameplay perspective, it was like amazing that you don't know. The game may seem to be this small box, but what's going on behind it, you don't know. It could always be a little bit more. I've always loved to try and push games to the limit when I'm playing them and see how far I can go. But from a developer's perspective as well too, it suddenly made me realize that the video game from a developer's perspective isn't just like a product that they put out that they want people to buy. You know, it isn't just like a story that maybe they've told as well. It's different from like a movie. Because in a movie, you only see what you can see. I mean, I understand some movies might have hidden subcontext and stuff like that, but from a visual perspective, you can only really see what you can see. Music, you can only hear what you can hear. Books, you can only read what you can read. Video game, you can put anything in that world, even if it's like 1,000 pixels off and no one will ever see it. You could physically put it there, and in the digital world that literally exists. And that you have the power to control that. And that was a really powerful like idea for me. Another game that I played recently actually on stream, Beginner's Guide. If you're into game development, I 100% recommend you play that. It's only 3 hours long.
What's it called?
The Beginner's Guide.
Beginner, I've never heard of that.
I hadn't until I mentioned it to me, and it's like such an impactful video game. But there's a part in that. The story is basically someone's narrating, talking about a friend who developed video games, but never made full games, just small little levels and worlds, and was just made crazy ideas. And he takes each one of those little concepts and talks you through it while you walk around it, and you just investigate. Really, it's a strange concept, but it works brilliantly. And one of those concepts is you're just walking down this corridor, like in a space station. And, you know, he's talking you through what he thought the developer's ideas were in that. And then he says, right, just stop here for a minute. I'm just going to remove the walls around you now. And then as soon as like the game removes the walls, there's this humongous like labyrinth of corridors and buildings and all these things beyond the walls that the player would never see. And, you know, you can think, what's the point in doing that? But it's like I said before, it's having control of that. All these, a video game is a little world that somebody's creating, you know, and they can do whatever they want in it, really. And with Glow, that was a part that intrigued me. Having such a small viewpoint gave a huge opportunity to be able to put things in the levels.
I found some of your secrets.
I
found a few of them.
Some of them are more traditional kind of placement, and I did that on purpose so then people wouldn't just go through the game and never ever experience a secret. And other ones are ones that I placed more in that kind of, it's only somebody who's going to spend a lot of time exploring this game that would actually find that.
Interesting.
But yeah, so back to the point, it was Ink that actually was my first trigger point for the kind of game. And I saw, you know, this guy's made an amazingly playable game, really like engrossing, really good fun, and it's literally just a white square, you know, in like a black world that plays. And another game, Thomas Was Alone. Have you played that one?
I've heard of that one, but I haven't played it.
That's just rectangles and shapes, and I realized I could have spent. I was going to make all the assets myself, and I could have spent 3 months just making the assets alone. Or I could just focus, you know, make the decision to go for an abstract viewpoint and focus purely on the gameplay. And after I took that decision and I started developing the story in it, some people don't realize there's really a story in it, but there is a story.
There is,
and quite like a a solid story to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Once I started developing that story, it couldn't have been anything other than an abstract rectangle square. So yeah, obviously the assets were easy for me to create anyway. The level design, I did every single level myself, and I must admit, once I hit like the 30 level mark, it's difficult to start thinking of new ideas, new levels.
I bet it is.
Yeah, definitely, and that's where the concept of like the different gameplay mechanics came in.
Right.
And I didn't want to rush those, which was why I decided to pace them out 25 levels apart. And I also was influenced a lot by the Mega Man X intro, you know, where it's not got a tutorial, but the way you play that first level teaches you everything you need to know for the rest of the game.
Right.
And like that's like one of the most best created tutorials ever, you know what I mean? And it's a key for me in gameplay design with a game like platforming game in particular, that each level introduces a concept easily to you. So then in the next level, you can achieve that new concept and be comfortable with it. So when you see it in a more challenging situation next, you're not having to learn on the fly. You just have to deal with the challenge.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it that way, and you don't just try to like, you know, level one, just jump in with like some fancy big level, you can pace it out and you're introducing each concept slowly. I was then able to comfortably create 100 levels. There is one level actually that is the Chronik Spartan logo as well.
Really?
Yeah, that was nothing else other than just a bit of an ego trip one night.
Nice.
Yeah, because my logo used to be just a pixelated logo, rather than the smooth one it is now. And so it's like each pixel is like a block that creates part of that level.
Nice. I'll be on the lookout for that one. Awesome, man. That's really awesome hearing your approach to developing that game and kind of how you went about it. So here's my next big question. So for somebody like me that really wants to get into game development, and I've told you before, I have 3 game ideas in my head, and I kind of told you a little bit about the one that I want to start with because it's the most simplistic out of the 3. And I feel like if you're going to start developing a game, I feel like it's best to start with something simple and ease your way into it, which it sounds like that's exactly what you did. You kind of ease your way into it, and each project got more and more complex. For somebody like me that really wants to get into game development, what kind of advice or recommendations do you have for me? Because I've been wanting to get into it for a couple of years now, and I just haven't taken that first step. It's like I'm scared to take that first step, just like I was initially when starting YouTube. I was scared to take that first step. And then, of course, when I did, of course, I fumbled along the way. And my first,
you inevitably will.
But what kind of advice do you have for somebody like me that just doesn't really know how to get started? I mean, I do sort of, but it's like, it's very intimidating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, the simplest thing I would say, and this isn't all I'll say, but the simplest thing I say is like literally start straight away. Start straight away. If I could have told myself, I'd thought about game development, like you're saying now, for years. When I was like, 18, if you'd asked me what I wanted my job to be, I'd have said a game developer. And okay, it was a lot more difficult to get into back then, but I'd actually tried messing about with a mobile phone game probably about 3 years before I started Cute Cat Splat, and it lasted a couple of weeks and I left it. I hadn't decided in my head I was going to do it. I think with anything, and like with YouTube, when I first made those pickups videos, I hadn't decided in my head, I'm going to make a YouTube channel. I'm going to be consistent. And, as successful as it gets, like, in everyone else's eyes, for me, I'm going to guarantee it's a success in the fact that I achieved commitment to it. Do you know what I mean? And I did the best I could. You've got to have that in your head. You've got to tell yourself you're going to do it. There's absolutely no point telling yourself you're not going to do it. It's like, it's easier said, I think, as you get older. You know what I mean? I heard that advice loads of times when I was younger, and you don't really take it on board. But there's absolutely no benefit to thinking you're not going to achieve something, because the only thing you might achieve thinking that is not achieving it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What have you got to lose by sitting there and telling yourself, I'm going to make an indie game and it is going to be successful? The thing is that to expect success that's the tricky part. I hoped for success with Glow.
Yeah,
and I hoped for like financial success with Glow. But there was the part in the back of my mind where I was prepared because I knew how difficult that would be. Spoiler alert, Glow was not financially successful for me. It didn't set off a new career path for me, But the difference that made was that whilst developing it, there was this excitement, this anticipation. It's kind of like buying a lottery ticket. If you just told yourself you're not winning the lottery ever, do you know what I mean? Or like when people gamble, do you know what I mean? If you just told yourself, I'm not going to win, you wouldn't do it.
Right.
It's that excitement and that like what if thought process that makes you think, if this did, end up enabling me to develop games for the rest of my life comfortably, and that could be my hobby turned into a dream job, how amazing would that feel? If you give yourself a little taste of that, but still have the realization of how difficult that is, so then you're not disappointed when 9 times out of 10 it won't happen. You've put that little dream out there, that little like glimpse of a light that you start moving towards. And then no matter how little going into it, that's not going to matter to you. What's going to matter is the journey, is is achieving that dream, that goal, and you're going to keep on doing that until you reach it. And I'm still doing that. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing it with YouTube, and I'm doing it with game development. I know how difficult it is, and I know the chances of success are minuscule. I'm prepared. If YouTube or game development don't end up creating a comfortable career path for me, then that's okay. Do you know what I mean? But there's that excitement that what if it did? That drives me. So you need that drive. That's the motivation, isn't it? On top of that, the thing that changes drive into commitment for me is it's something I refer to as triggers. And again, it's like I'd experienced these things when I was younger, but I hadn't really recognized it. So I used to do like Kung Fu for a couple of years. I really enjoyed it, but it's really difficult undertaking, especially to get to any level of like, significance in terms of your capabilities and that. And when I was younger, I used to always watch Kung Fu films. And like, it was like, as soon as I'd watched the Kung Fu film, that was it. I wanted to do Kung Fu. I was going to learn Kung Fu, and I was going to be doing backflips and everything.
Nice.
A couple of days later, I'd forgot about it. And I see it with my son now. Like he'll watch, Captain America, and then it's like everything is Captain America. He's the best character ever. Then like the next week he's watching Black Panther, and he's like, I need my Black Panther costume. I've got to have. Where's my Black Panther toys? Like I don't care about Captain America anymore. And it's like there's no secret that you're influenced by what you're consuming.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Whether it's music, whatever. And the thing that changed that drive, which I've had a lot, I say motivation, the thing that changed the motivation into drive, because I've been motivated to do a lot of things. I've been motivated to work out in the past, and like only lasted a couple of weeks in the gym. And the thing that I've noticed in my life now that enables me to like, continue to work out more regularly and to do game development on YouTube, it's triggers. And for me, what that is I listen to game development podcasts every single day going into work and coming home from work. Nice. It was like I didn't listen to music for like 3 months. And it might sound excessive, and it might sound a bit daunting, like, oof, do I really want to do that? And it doesn't have to be like every single journey that you do, but the key is when you listen to a game development podcast, you'll come out of that all like psyched up, excited about game development.
That's true.
And ideas running around your head. Like I listened to an interview, the guy who made Glow, and an idea sparked. I didn't leave it there. I started like reading that guy's that guy's blog, reading his story, listened to the podcast more, hearing other interviews. And I ensured that just as that like interest level was going to dip, and like the next shiny object was going to come along, I listened to another game development podcast, or I watched a GDC talk. GDC talks are fantastic on YouTube. And I was just consuming so much information that there were constant triggers that every time I was coming home or every time I was like lunchtime, it was like I just listened to a game development podcast. Right, I want to do some game development. And that was what like really pushed me along. In a sense that it didn't feel like a chore, it didn't feel like a job. It was just, I enjoyed listening to them. It was my hobby. I enjoyed it. It was like if I was watching Kung Fu films every single day, I'd have continued doing Kung Fu for as long as I was watching those movies.
Yeah. Wow, man. You know what? That's a very interesting concept that I'd never thought about before, but you're 100% right. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've had those exact same experiences where I might not feel like doing something or not be motivated to do it, but then I listen to something or I watch something that has to do with that thing, and it pumps me up and it gets me excited and it makes me want to do it. And I'm actually experiencing that right now with wanting to get into filmmaking a little bit. I'm actually experiencing that right now where, sometimes I won't feel motivated, but then I'll watch something or read something or listen to something, and all of a sudden that motivation is back. And I never really thought about that before. And you're right, man. You're right. That is a great way to stay motivated.
It is. And I hadn't thought about it. Like I said, I experienced it for most of my life. I think the one thing that really made me notice it at first was I think like a lot of people, I'd struggle to stay motivated to go to the gym for the longest period of time.
Tough,
but I'd made this decision that I was going to put a workout bench in my garage, get some weights, and it was I wouldn't have to drive and it'd be a lot easier, but I still struggled. And then I listened to a podcast, a guy called Joe DeFranco one day, because I'd seen it was an interview with Triple H. And I'm heavily into wrestling, less so these days, but I like Triple H from like the Triple H versus Rock days. And Joe DeFranco's his personal trainer. And I thought, this would be interesting. But I thought it was just going to be like Triple H going on about a load of wrestling, but it wasn't. It was like a really interesting conversation about motivation, how work ethic in the gym translates to work ethic in real life. And it was just a great podcast. So I just started listening to them on the way into work. And this was before I'd actually started game development. And I noticed I'd been working out for 3 months straight, like at that point, four days a week as well, which for me was like a lot. And when I'd stopped listening to that podcast, I think after about 3 months, I've stopped listening to it. I think it'd come to Christmas time or whatever, distracted with other stuff. I stopped going to the gym, and I realized the correlation. I didn't have the desire, because I hadn't just listened to them talking about passion, motivation, and then also talking about different exercise types and thinking, I'll go and I'll try that exercise at home. And that was the first time it kind of like sparked in me, hang on a second. And I started listening to the podcast again, and then I had the same kind of motivation and drive. It's tricky now, I'll be honest, since I started doing YouTube, because you've almost got to consciously decide which triggers you're going to let yourself listen to.
That's true.
And like we referred to how difficult it is, like keeping up with watching people's content and videos and that. And for me, the biggest struggle is I can just go down a rabbit hole of watching content. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'll watch yourself. I'll watch Gaming Off the Grid, Nerd Lair, Telesplash Gaming, Do You Nerd, all the channels that we get on within the community, and just great channels. And the one thing that like we all share is that like passion. You can see it. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
Like quite often we all like get on with each other. We'll all like message like however often in like Twitter or whatever. And seeing each other's passion, that's a trigger for me. Do you know what I mean? I'll see your GameCube episodes, and that's a passion for me in terms of like the depth and the content of the games that you cover. I'll watch like Sean from the Nerd Layer, and it's like his creativity and his like little skits that he does before like an episode. It's like I love that. Gaming Off the Grid, the consistency, all these things. I'm seeing, and I'm thinking like, I'll take a bit of like, what I see from Sean, I'll take a bit from what I see from yourself, I'll take a bit from like Robert and Wes, and they're like, well, okay, when I do my next video, I'm gonna try a little bit of this, I'm gonna try a little bit of that. So that's like a constant trigger for me.
Yeah.
But when I'm watching a lot of YouTube content, I'm not paying as much attention to my game development. And there's been times since I started the YouTube journey where game development was like literally like high up here every single day. Like my wife was getting sick of it.
Yeah.
But then like when YouTube came along, it was like, game development was down here, YouTube was up here, and like for the longest period of time, and it kept on coming up. And I realized I was letting my triggers fall away in the game development world. So I consciously kind of decide like week by week or even day by day what my focus is going to be. And like 5 minutes into development, like with Gym Empire that I'm creating now, 5 minutes of a bit of focus and into development, and I've switched into like game development mode.
Nice.
And like, a YouTube video for me, or even a YouTube episode for me that I'd create is a distraction. And that day I'm just like pure, all I'm interested in is game development.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I'll wake up, I'll maybe watch an episode or somebody's or check out what, what's going on. And I'm like YouTube mode now. And it's like, that's triggered in me. And then like game development, I'm like, okay, I was working on this yesterday. I need to fix that bug, but I'm not really interested in it today.
Yeah.
And I've got to kind of like, it's like a switch that goes on and off in my head. And I'd say that would be one thing, I suppose, on a personal level of advice to you, is that if you want to do game development, make sure it's something that you definitely want to do.
Oh, I know it is for sure. I'm scared and I'm intimidated by it.
Well, then don't be scared.
Yeah.
Literally start straight away. Start and make it as easy on yourself as you can. Make it as easy as possible. And that's why I'd recommend, even though the issues I mentioned with Game Maker Studio, I would still recommend every single time somebody to start with Game Maker Studio.
Yeah.
When I was doing Cute Cat Splat, it took me 2 weeks to get to a point where there was any real gameplay interactivity on it, and this was like a Flappy Bird game, right?
Yeah.
But that's because it was all just code.
Right.
When I did the Game Maker Studio, when I downloaded it and I thought I'll try a platforming game, in 4 hours I had an object jumping around on platforms, and I was playing a platform game. You know what I mean? Obviously it was just the most basic form, but a prototype had just been created like that for me. Yeah. And that's the key. You've got to make it, especially with yourself, so you obviously like, work and content creation on YouTube, you're going to find it difficult to find the time. So make it as easy on yourself as possible, but just literally start straight away and see it like playing a video game, because it literally is. It's like an RPG game on extreme, basically.
Wow.
And don't expect the first thing you make or the first two things you make to be like anything that in the industry they say you would ship, like you put on Steam or whatever.
Right. Don't
even think about that. Just play with your concepts. Like make something that even if it's just one level of jumping around that you're like, I made that, and ideas will start to blossom and develop. And once you've found that one idea that you've decided is good enough to commit to, just you've got to tunnel vision yourself. And obviously we're talking about flip between YouTube and game development, but like through the duration of creating any video game, I'll be like, I want to make a racing game. I love racing games. Like that would be so much fun, and maybe even a little bit easier than what I'm doing. I want to make, like, at the time I was making Glow, I want to make a tycoon game. That would be so much fun. But you've got to just like 100% pure focus on what your decision was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If something happens and you realize actually this is completely a bad idea, that's different. But shiny object syndrome is like one of the biggest challenges to. Yeah. And I think that's the same in YouTube as well. It
is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man, that is all fantastic advice, man. I appreciate that. That definitely helps. I just got to do it. I just got to get into it, and just like I did with YouTube. I just got to make the conscious decision to do it and stumble my way through it. Because I mean, if you don't ever start doing something that you want to do, time is precious. You know what I mean?
It is.
So eventually you're going to run out of time and you're not going to be able to do it,
absolutely.
and you're going to regret it. And I don't want to regret it.
I mean, not knowing, everything about a person's personal life.
Yeah.
I can guarantee every natural reason you have to not do it, every natural worry you've got to not do it will not stop you. It should not stop you, and it will not get in the way.
Right.
Obviously, personal circumstances are different, and everyone's individual. But for the most part, our natural reasons and worries of like, I don't know it yet. I'm not quite ready. I'll do it. I'll need to learn a bit more about this. I've not got quite enough time. None of those things need to get in the way if you've decided that you're going to do it.
You're right. You are right about that. Let me ask you if you've experienced this with both YouTube and game development. Because I've experienced this with YouTube, doing YouTube. I've experienced that it has been really good for me mentally and psychologically for two reasons. Number one, because I'm doing something creative. I'm creating something, and the act of creating something just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like, you know what I mean? I feel like humans are innately have creativity in them. I mean, obviously, with all the art and music and everything that's out there, humans strive to want to create. So I found that to be incredibly beneficial for my health mentally and psychologically. But also, not just that, but also the fact that I have a goal. You know what I mean? Like with YouTube, the goal, everybody's YouTube goals are different. It might be, I want to reach 1,000 subscribers. It might be this and that. But the act of having a goal, or for you, the goal of finishing Gym Tycoon, is that what it's called?
Gym Empire.
Gym Empire, that's right. The goal of finishing Gym Empire. You've got a goal that you're working towards. And I find, me personally, when I have a goal that I'm working towards, it just makes me feel better, especially when I'm making progress towards that goal. Do you experience the same thing with YouTube and game development?
Absolutely, definitely. And very, very much so with game development. It's the target in game development is a little bit easier because it's 3 months to make a video game, 2.5 years or whatever, and therefore day by day, that target essentially can be very simple and easy. It's create the game, complete the game. You can have other targets on top of that, like, in terms of success or whatever. Yeah. So, for me, that definitely is. And that, out of everything I do, I think game development is the thing that I find most rewarding, as I'm progressing through it. YouTube for me is a little bit different because it's difficult to know exactly, like you said, everyone's target in YouTube is different. Yeah. And it's not as clear cut as, the closest thing in YouTube as to like finish the game is finish the episode. Yeah. And that happens, like, if you're a weekly channel, that happens every week. And for me, that's one of the benefits to YouTube in terms of creation. Game development, I'll be sat here for months and months, if not years, before I actually put anything out and get feedback on it. And part of creativity is getting feedback from people. You create it for yourself, but you create it for others as well. And in YouTube, that feedback loop's a lot smaller. It's like, an episode might take me 8 hours or something to create, and so every 8 hours of effort I can get feedback from people. And like you've completed something. Each episode is its own complete thing.
That's true.
So it's different kind of satisfactions for me. So in the early days, I think that episode by episode situation created that kind of sense of achievement for me. But as the channel started to grow a little bit and maybe shown some signs of something that could grow further, I started thinking to myself, what is the end goal? I don't think the end goal for me is a subscriber count, because it doesn't, that's difficult to predict. Yeah. And also, in theory, it never ends. You know what I mean? I bet. I don't think anyone will match that. But look at PewDiePie. I don't think he would have at first assumed like 100 million subscribers was his target.
And plus, we all get dead subs. You know what I mean? Subs that subscribe to your channel but don't watch your content, which is a useless sub to have.
Exactly. Yeah. I think for me, YouTube and a target point for me would be whereby it was something I could, you know, choose to be my career, you know, alongside game development. They could be like two halves of my career. But in terms of deciding that journey, as like I get closer to the 1,000 subscriber mark, I'm aware that I started the channel as a pickups channel. I have a heavy focus on retro gaming because like that is my passion in terms of gaming, and that's been compounded with indie game development because I didn't play video games for a good 3-4 years, partly because I'd met my wife and we were new in our relationship at the time, but also because video games had lost a little bit of their soul for me. Do you know what I mean? I just didn't enjoy them in the same way that I used to. And I didn't know if it was just me. And then when I found indie games, I started seeing and experiencing games that reminded me of how I experienced games when I was younger.
I love indie games. Huge. I'm sure you've seen, I'm a huge proponent of indie games.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, most indie game developers don't have the fear of success, really. You know what I mean? AAA games and companies do, and that's completely fair. You know what I mean? You don't become the companies they are in an industry the size that it is now without having to guarantee success, really.
Right.
So like indie games made me suddenly realize actually it wasn't me that had changed, it was the games that had changed. And when I started going back playing retro games, I realized they are as enjoyable as they were when I first played them. So, you know, retro gaming for me is a huge passion. You know, I wouldn't have the collection I've got now, you know, if it wasn't for the passion of it. But equally, I'm now really excited for current generation gaming as well. I've started finding a new way to appreciate that. I think I was playing games that I thought that I felt I should play, games like Call of Duty.
Right.
And I just wasn't enjoying them. And then I suddenly realized I don't really read reviews anymore, not from the big publications. And I started realizing I don't have to play those games. I can just play the games I want to play.
Exactly.
So I started doing that. I've started enjoying video games in the current generation a lot more as well. You know, I've not been excited for a next generation console like I am for the PlayStation 5 since back when I was looking forward to the PlayStation 2.
So it's been a while, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I was excited for the PlayStation 3 and more so for the PlayStation 4, but the PlayStation 5, I would get those feelings that I had back for the PlayStation 2. So, you know, I love retro gaming. I do a lot of content about retro gaming on my channel, but I really love current gen gaming as well. And I'm starting to do more current gen stuff on the channel as well. But then at the same time, game development's a huge passion for me. And I tried doing a second channel with game development, but I realized it was going to be too much to handle. So I want to have a game development, you know, in my banner, it says game news, game collecting, game development. And I want those to be like the three like pillars of the channel. But I'm at a point now where I think I've got to really carefully balance that content out and not fall too much on one side or the other. I don't want people who came to the channel because of retro gaming to start thinking like, oh, he's not bothered about retro gaming anymore. He wants to do just PlayStation 5, you know, or whatever. You know, in television, Amico is something I'm really interested in as well. You know, I'm a big supporter of that console. But then at the same point, I want to have more game development stuff on there, but I want to put it out in a way that is going to interest people who aren't game developers.
That's true.
I don't want it to just be the dry episodes that people aren't interested in because it's too technical. So I think that's what my target is for the channel. And I'm at that kind of point now where I think for me, back to your original question of feeling that satisfaction of achievement, where I'm getting that feeling satisfaction in the channel of achievement right now is building out a schedule
Yeah.
of content.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've got a schedule of content, but I'm starting to feel like that schedule of content doesn't naturally represent exactly what I'm enjoying in the world of gaming right now. And I don't want to just do episodes because a few months back I thought it was an interesting topic, but now I'm not as interested in it, or I don't think it's relevant, or you know, things change.
Yeah.
So when I look at like episodes I'd planned, I mean, I've got episodes planned like 3 months in the future. I don't record them, you know, and that far in the future, but I've got like the schedule written out.
Yeah.
And I look into the future episodes and I'm thinking, that's not going to represent where I'm at. And it doesn't give me a nice feeling. So I've started redoing that schedule now. And, you know, every time I put another episode idea now that fits into like those 3 pillars of like game development, game collecting, and game news, or current gaming, if you like, it gives me that warm feeling of like it's another step, another path on the way to like creating this cohesive idea that I've got for the channel that doesn't conflict and kind of, you know, all fits nicely in harmony.
Yeah. I like that. I like that, man. Yeah, that makes sense. And to everybody listening, definitely check out Chronik Spartan Gaming's YouTube channel. We'll have a link to that in the description down below. I'll get a list of links from him that we could throw in the description. So your website, definitely want to get a link to that, to any social media you want to share, a link to your Steam page so that people can check out Glow if they're interested. So we'll get a list of links for everything down below so that you can immerse yourself in the world of Chronik Spartan Gaming, because he's great. He's a great YouTuber, great guy, and I definitely want some of my audience to go check him out if you haven't.
Thank you.
Real quick before we're about to the end here, is there anything you want to say about Gem Empire?
Yeah, I guess the 2 ways you can support me the best, you know, for the YouTube channel is to subscribe.
Yes.
And I appreciate every single subscription. I know everyone says that, but I really, really do. Gem Empire, in the game development side of things, the most powerful way you can support me is to go onto the Gem Empire coming soon page on Steam and hit me on a wish list.
Yeah, I did that.
Thank you. Because the wish list on Steam is make or break when it comes to an indie game. You've kind of got to hit 10,000 wish lists. So then on the day it releases, it's kind of like a video being released.
Yeah.
People in Steam get a notification. 10,000 seems to be that sweet spot that, you know, converts enough people to put you onto like a trending page. So when it comes to the world of game development, hitting that wish list button for me is like hitting the subscribe button on YouTube. Actual information about Gem Empire. I used to post a lot of information on my Discord channel about Gem Empire because it was at a point where it was rapidly progressing in like a visual sense. So I could put like pictures, GIFs and all that. Once I started getting to the point of where work was going on the back end, it's really difficult to keep people updated and it not just be boring technical information. Like, oh, I did this in the save system today. So for like information on Gem Empire, for anybody who might already, you know of it, it's at a point now where I'm very close to putting out a demo for it.
Really?
So in Steam, the way it works for anyone that doesn't know is you can do a full release or you can do an early access release. A lot of people get the early access release wrong because they'll put it out in a broken fashion and expect that you can develop the game and make it into a fixed game, you know, once it's at full release. Most users don't understand that that's what you're doing, and so they'll just see a broken game, it gets negative reviews, and it's dead in the water before it's even started. So I'm not going to put Gem Empire out onto Steam into early access until I'm confident that it's a cohesive, fully playable experience that doesn't feel broken. Yet there'll be a lot of stuff I'll be able to add into it, like, you know, swimming pools for the gym, you know, extra content like that. I'm not doing like DLC type stuff, but extra content I can then start adding in until I then finally say this is the fully finished 100% game. So early access is going to be the first time people can technically purchase it. But before that, because I wanted it to be a game that is heavily driven by the community. I'm putting out I keep on calling it like an alpha demo. So it's not in beta. It's still in alpha, if you like. So it's gonna have bugs. It will have broken parts to it. But it's a demo because it's a little slice of the game, and I'm going to put that available to everybody in my Discord server and any patrons at the time as well. And the purpose for that is going to be to put out what is like the first slice of the game, which is going to be the simple game loop of playing through the first level or playing through your first a storage closet gym. Understanding the mechanics, working with like clients and stuff, buying gym equipment, and essentially everything that the game's built upon, but in a very small like snippet.
Gotcha.
Which is going to be primarily used for like testing purposes, but also for people to start saying this is a good idea, or this is a bit unbalanced, or maybe you should add this in. So that's what I'm working to right now, and I'd say I'm probably about a month or so off that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Nice.
A month or so of solid work.
Yeah.
So that could, shift depending on how much real life takes over.
What's your goal for the finished product as far as releasing it?
So early access release or full release?
Yeah, let's say early access release.
Early access, I want it to have, I would say at least 10 environments that the player can, like I call them premises, because you start off in your storage. I haven't really said how the premise really ever. So the whole premise is you start off in your storage closet, and you can start buying equipment. That attracts clients. Clients start coming. In a natural kind of tycoon game way, that's the basic premise of buying more equipment, training clients. But you can train a client, or you can let a client train themselves. If you train them, they're less likely to injure themselves. If they train themselves, if they're classed as incompetent, they could injure themselves. You could get a lawsuit.
Oh, wow.
The more clients you start getting, that obviously starts becoming overwhelming. You can't train every client yourself. So then you need to hire staff. Staff can then train clients, and you've got to balance the staff levels to the client needs and all that. Client desires, based on different equipment at times will make them happier or not. You'll start to see the actual shape of the clients changing while they exercise. But then as you move on and you evolve your storage closet into a bit more of a gym, you might want to move to like a bigger gym. You can then decide to buy a new premises. When you buy that premises, you can either sell up, and then you get all the money from the assets that you sold in your previous one and use them for the new one. Or you can keep both of them and keep them running at the same time. Where the one in the background would, tick over, and you could switch over. It wouldn't just end up on fire when you turned back to it. But when you buy a new premises, the area in which it's in also has an impact. So it could be in a really busy high street kind of area with a lot of people coming past, so you've got more client potential. But equally, you might have a donut store right next to you, which means that clients then come out and then go into the donut store. So any of their gains that they made that day might be lost, and then therefore they think you're a rubbish gym because they're not losing, weight or whatever. So it's all those little things. But the theme of it is to come across a bit like Tycoon Hospital, like 2 Point Hospital. Remember those games? With a bit of comical tone to it as well, a bit of fun. So when the clients fall off equipment, they fall off idiots and stuff. So for the early access release would be to have 10 premises, to have all the gameplay mechanics down. Most of the all the equipment you could buy, all that type of stuff. The only thing that would really be left out from the early access release and would start getting introduced are big additions to your gym. Would you add a boxing ring, or you might want to purchase, let's say, a kung fu area, or a swimming pool, big things like that, because those are things that I might have to start looking at hiring, artists for and things like that. And because of the extra money that they would cost, that's when I'd have to start using early access funding
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're close to like an early access demo, and the easiest way to get access to that demo is to just jump on into the Discord server.
Cool.
And everyone in there gets access to it.
Yeah, and we'll get that link too and throw it in the description. Yeah. I have to say, man, after hearing your description of the game, I'm pretty intrigued by it. It's been a while since I played a tycoon-like game. To be honest with you, I think the last tycoon-like game I ever played was Roller Coaster Tycoon back a long
classic.
time ago.
I love that game.
So I've been out of the tycoon world in a while, so this seems like a good opportunity for me to jump back into it. So I will definitely be a supporter of the game. So definitely keep me updated on that.
Yeah, definitely. I will do.
Cool, man. So is there anything else that you want to say to the audience? Well, first, let me say this. Great podcast, man. Great conversations. There's so much more I want to talk about with you.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe the time's flown by now.
Yeah, we would be here for several more hours. So I definitely want to have you back because I want to talk more video games with you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you're interested, definitely want to have you back on the podcast.
Absolutely.
But is there anything else that you want to say to the audience before we kind of conclude everything?
That's it, really. I mean, like, if you want to support me, like I said, subscribing on YouTube or wishlisting on Steam, they're the two best ways to support me.
But don't just subscribe; watch the videos too.
Yeah. Hit that notification bell. But yeah, I've just really enjoyed it, and for anyone that does watch my episodes and my videos, the community, I love chatting with the community. It's one of my favorite parts of it in the community tab. And just like with Gym Empire, I say to everybody, let me know your ideas, feedback, let me know what you think is good, what you think is bad. Because at the end of the day, I'm creating content in video games and in episodes on YouTube because it's an artistic outlet for me. So I really enjoy. But equally, I want people to enjoy it as well.
Right.
And it's kind of like the whole loop that we said, of creating something and then having feedback from it as well. Yeah,
constructive criticism is very important.
Absolutely, yeah. So, like anyone who's like in the episodes in the chat, feel free to chat with me about anything, constructive or not.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, man, I have really enjoyed having you on the podcast. And like I was telling you earlier, this is the first episode of the podcast I've done where I don't have a set list of interview questions. Most of the questions that I've asked you today, they've kind of popped into my head as we're talking. And I feel like that kind of creates a more organic conversation. So it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a really enjoyable conversation, definitely.
Yeah, man. So I definitely want to have you back on. And again, to everybody listening, there will be links in the description down below for his YouTube channel, Steam page, Discord, all the good stuff, social media, so that you can get connected with Chronik. Oh, do you have a merch store as well?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay, so we'll get a link to that. And I'm actually gonna buy one of your shirts.
Kick off your shoes and relax your socks.
Nice. So as you can see, I recently got a big Retro Show shirt. So next is gonna be a Chronik Spartan shirt. So I'll probably order that after we're done because I'm gonna all my fellow YouTubers that I watch. I'm gonna try to get at least one shirt so that in videos I can support.
Yeah, I'm on that journey. I think I've got my nerdling shirt over here from Do You Nerd.
Oh, nice.
So
that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, nice.
I'm trying to slowly pick them up whenever I can.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, it's been great to have you on, and if anybody has any additional questions for Stav, feel free to throw those in the comments down below, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them. So, all right, man. Well, that's it. Thanks again for joining the podcast, and can't wait to have you back on again.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.